And I know, like you promised me earlier, that you're going to work very hard in your studies and that you're going to pass with flying colors. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. On my behalf and on behalf of the whole House, I welcome the students to the House of Parliament. Additionally, there are the following schools in the public gallery: Anderson High School from Endebess, Trans Nzoia; Samoei Boys Secondary School from Nandi Hills, Nandi; Kiambere Secondary School from Mbere South, Embu. I've been requested by the women rep for Nandi County to welcome the students from Nandi Hills and the member for Nandi Hills as well. 1 minute each. Give her the microphone.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I take this opportunity to welcome all the students who are visiting Parliament, the 13th Parliament, Honorable Speaker, where I'm privileged to sit. And I want to specially invite or acknowledge the presence of Samoei Boys. Honorable Speaker, we call them the Spartans back at home. And they have done us proud. And Honorable Speaker, I want to note that, Honorable Speaker, in our county, we have serious big schools, Kapsabet Boys and the likes. And one school that is seriously growing bigger is Samoei Boys, and it is local, Honorable Speaker. Local, Honorable Speaker, I mean the admissions and the students in that school are 90% local. So this is the pride of Nandi, and we are proud of the Spartans from Samoei Boys High School. I want to wish them the very best, Honorable Speaker. 2 weeks ago, I was in their school, and we were able to speak about so many matters, including and not limited to them doing the best in their studies so that they can be able to become whatever they want to become. So Samoei Boys High School, led by their teachers and the principal, the very able Kimosop, we welcome you to Nairobi, to the 13th Parliament, and we want to wish you the very best from your woman rep.
Kitur.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. As we welcome all students who have come to pay a visit to Parliament, and in particular, Samoei Secondary School. They call themselves the Green Commandos. This is an institution that, like last year, with 289 students, they were all posted to university with a mean of 9.6, and they've been growing. Indeed, this is an institution that can only be leveled to institutions like Alliance, Moi High School, Kabarak, where I studied, and any other best institution. In fact, Mr. Speaker, they had made an invite to all members of Parliament that they are inviting you on the 22nd of June, when they will be doing a great celebration for the great performance. So I want to wish you well, and you are all welcome to Parliament. Thank you.
Honorable Bukose for Endebess.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I want to join my colleagues to welcome Anderson High School from Endebess. It is the school at the border of Kenya and Uganda. And this school, Honorable Speaker, is the best school in Endebess. It was also number 4 within the county of Trans Nzoia in the last KCSE. It is the school that represented Kenya in the East African competition for volleyball. It is also representing Kenya in chess game in South Africa. 4 of our athletes from this school are also international athletes, and they'll be representing the country in various athletes competitions within the continental and outside. So, Honorable Speaker, I want to thank the House and you in particular. You know you are also from that region, and we appreciate your service. So thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I want to encourage Anderson High School that they are welcome to Parliament, and I hope that they'll also be able to perform well in this year. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Zamzam, what is this about the students? Go ahead. 1 minute.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Speaker, na mimi kama mama Mombasa County niweze kuwakaribisha rasmi watoto wangu wa shule ya Visual Loshan, na niwaambie kuwa nyinyi mmetuinua sana katika anga za Kenya, mmetuinua sana katika ramani ya Kenya kwa kutoa wanafunzi bora sana katika Kenya hii, kutoa madaktari na ufundi mwingi kutoka katika shule yenu. Kwa hiyo mimi nawahusia mzidi kushika kasi katika masomo. Kama ni wasichana, mcheze boli, msishike boli, tuweze kujenga taifa pamoja na muweze kufocus na masomo yenu. Asante sana Mheshimiwa Speaker.
Thank you. Still on order number 7, Rosa Buyu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for your indulgence. I was slightly held up in the office attending to one of the constituents who'd come from Kisumu. Mr. Speaker, this is a request for a statement regarding compensation for land compulsorily acquired to construct Kisumu Northern Bypass. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 44.2c, I wish to request for a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Lands regarding the inordinate delay in compensation of landowners for land compulsorily acquired to construct the Kisumu Northern Bypass. Honorable Speaker, in 2015, almost 10 years ago, the government undertook major road infrastructure developments, including the construction of Kisumu Northern Bypass to ease congestion in Kisumu City. Owing to unavailability of a road reserve, the government compulsorily acquired land from some residents to construct the bypass. Article 43 of the Constitution obligates the government to promptly pay full compensation to any person whose land is acquired for public purpose. It is unfortunate, Mr. Speaker, that close to 10 years since some landowners ceded their land to the state for the Noble project, the government is yet to compensate them. Honorable Speaker, it is against this background that I request for a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Lands on the following. 1, could a report be provided detailing all persons whose land was compulsorily acquired for construction of the Kisumu Northern Bypass in 2015? Also, provide the value of the acquired land and the status of compensation in respect of each of the affected landowners. 2, explain the reasons for delayed compensation of 18 affected landowners, despite numerous follow-up initiatives made through Usomaki Social Justice Center, a community-based organization. 3, Mr. Speaker, state the plans that the government has put in place to promptly compensate the affected landowners, including interest for lost earnings over the years since they handed over their land to the government, and state when the compensation will be settled. Mr. Speaker, I thank you.
Chair Lands. Chair Lands. Hold Nyamoko. Yes, Jared.
Thank you, Mr.
Hold on, Nyamoko. Jared, what is it?
I thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for allowing me to joyride on the statement as read by Honorable Rosa Buyu. Honorable Speaker, the situation is actually uglier than she's putting it. When this idea was birthed in the year 2015 to come up with the Kisumu Northern Corridor that joins the airport road to Mambuleo, to Muhoroni, and ultimately Londiani Junction, Honorable Speaker, the owners of parcels along that corridor were forcefully evicted from their homes to create a pathway. Honorable Speaker, it was done under the premise of compensation, which has not happened to this very day, almost 10 years down the line, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, some of the family members were plugged into other relatives' homes, overstretching budgetary allocations for individual families, Honorable Speaker, with the hope of getting compensation at the end of the day. 10 years they have been waiting. Those families got tired with the family members and relatives, and most of them do not actually have where to stay because their boards were demolished by the government. Honorable Speaker, even as the Chair Lands Committee undertakes to carry out a comprehensive investigation that will lead to compensation, we ask that this is expedited. Otherwise, we are losing lives as a result of frustrations and depressions by these families.
Thank you. You made your point.
I thank you. I thank you.
Chair Lands. When can you bring the response? 2 weeks?
In the next 2 weeks, Mr. Speaker.
For that, thank you. Next order.
Order number 8, The Statute Law Miscellaneous Amendments Bill, National Assembly Bills number 67 of 2023. Resumption of debate.
Honorable members, before we resume the debate, at order number 10, when we go into the committee of the whole, we have consideration of Senate amendments to the National Rating Bill, National Assembly Bill number 55 of 2022, and the Kenya Drugs Authority Bill, National Assembly Bill number 54 of 2022. In regard to the Kenya Drugs Authority Bill, order, Member Bashir, order. The man you are talking to should be listening to this because he's your majority leader. When we get to the drugs bill, the view of the House Business Committee was that we step down this bill for a while pending consultations because I have a report that indicates that the bill has been amended so much to the extent that it has lost its original character. You have amended until you are amending the long title, the short title, the definitions, virtually everything. And under our standing orders, you cannot amend a motion until you negative the original intention. So we will talk with Dr. Bukose, the chair of the committee. If we are satisfied that the amendments are so far reaching us that they have altered the intent and the character of the bill, then Dr. Bukose may be advised to republish a fresh bill to capture what the amendments are looking for. That is the law, both in our jurisdiction and in comparable jurisdictions around the Commonwealth. Next order, it's been called out. Who was on the floor? Honorable Njendi Malulu, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I wanted to continue by saying that this particular amendment was even opposed by the Committee on Energy. It was also opposed by the ministry itself through a letter that was sent to the National Assembly. Mr. Speaker, the committee recommended that this particular agency, NUPEA, should be adequately funded. It also said that it recommended that this agency should continue discharging its mandates as required in Section 56 of the Energy Act. So, Mr. Speaker, I oppose this based on those facts. However, Mr. Speaker, after I developed keen interest in the main act and also the amendments, I found that Section 54 of the Energy Act of 2019 that establishes NUPEA, there was no any amendments on this particular section in regard to what was said on the floor by the mover of the motion. And as much as the memorandum of objects and reasons indicating the winding up of this agency, Mr. Speaker, we look at the amendments that are there in the miscellaneous amendment bill that is on the floor. We don't have any amendments to that effect. So this leaves me even wondering why this was mentioned by the mover and it appears in the objects. I mean the memorandum of objects and reasons, and yet the main amendments do not reflect what was actually argued by the mover. Mr. Speaker, as I had said earlier, that was the only one that I was opposing in terms of amendment. Otherwise, I was in support with the rest of the amendments, and particularly I'm impressed with the amendment that includes KPLC in the membership of REREC. Mr. Speaker, this will ensure effective collaboration between REREC and KPLC, because we've had a lot of challenges on the ground, in the field, when it comes to lighting in our villages, in our constituencies. Mr. Speaker, we are aware REREC is really doing a good work in terms of last mile installation in our villages. What we have noted is that because of the disconnect between KPLC and REREC, the REREC does the installation of last mile, identifies homesteads, identifies houses. It actually constructs a power line up to the point of a transformer. Mr. Speaker, what usually happens after commissioning by REREC and handing over this power to Kenya Power, it can take 6 months, it can take 2 years or even 3 years before Kenya Power actually does the metering in homes. This, Mr. Speaker, results into a lot of complaints. It results into a lot of vandalism of property that belongs to Kenya, to REREC, so that at the end of the day, when the meters normally come, you find that Kenya Power or REREC is spending further in terms of repairing and purchasing the property that was destroyed. Mr. Speaker, also, this will enable us not to lose any opportunity in terms of using the power that is normally at our doorsteps, and yet because of lack of metering, we don't enjoy it. Mr. Speaker, also, we've had a lot of challenge that after we have REREC has installed the transformer, powered the transformer. When it takes time to install, to put meters in people's homes, unscrupulous contractors normally come and start laying illegal lines, so that you find many other homes have been connected outside the 600-meter requirement. You find that when the time comes for metering now, we have also a problem now, conflict, and then an MP is involved, household complaining that how come I have a meter and I've not been connected to the power line. So I support all these except this particular one of winding up NUPEA and transferring resources of NUPEA to the Ministry of Energy. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Didymus.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. And I want to state from the very beginning that I support this miscellaneous amendment bill because, Mr. Speaker, if you look at the proposed amendment to the Children's Act, it's basically the bill proposes to enable the courts so they can be able to allow an application by a man to adopt a child. You understand, Mr. Speaker, that in this country there are very many men who are single-handedly taking care of their families, and they should be allowed to adopt a child, Honorable Speaker. With regard to the Copyright Act, Honorable Speaker, it is important that there are very many artists or content creators in this country. They should be remunerated from the same level, and we must have some clear management in terms of what the Copyright Board will follow to ensure that there is equity and fairness insofar as sharing the royalties is concerned, Honorable Speaker. And also, the amendments number 1 of 2015 to the Scrap Metal Act of 2015, Honorable Speaker, it is a very good amendment because it's going to protect the very critical infrastructure in the energy sector in this country that have been suffering from people who vandalize, who steal transformers, who steal cables, so that for you to deal with copper and aluminium, you must have a special license, which I am sure it will undergo some type of vetting, so that a firm, before a firm is given a license to begin to deal in scrap copper and aluminium, they must demonstrate where they are getting those copper from, not to be the ones that are vandalizing the copper in this country, Honorable Speaker. Basically, Honorable Speaker, these miscellaneous amendments, it's just to cleaning up various statutes to realign them with our constitution and the very many changing policies in this country. And it's a good thing that we are going to move forward, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the essence of these miscellaneous amendments is that, Kenya as a country is run on policies. And when a government implements a policy or a law, we have a team of government, both in government and outside government, that have a responsibility of monitoring and evaluating how those policy and those those laws, statute laws, are either beneficial to the country in terms of how much budgetary allocations they are receiving, how much value that the Kenyans are getting, and as a country and as a house, we have a responsibility to either terminate those various policies or rather improve them so that the Kenyan people can continue to get a benefit of these very many laws, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, even as I support these laws, we must be aware that at times these miscellaneous amendment bills can be brought in to misuse. But I've gone through this document and I can confirm to this House that each and every proposed clause has beneficial to this country. And once these amendments have been approved, this law will go a long way into ensuring that the Children's Act is properly beneficial to the country. The Copyright Act goes ahead to benefit the very many artists and local contents in this country. The scrap metal that has always been a bit misused, Honorable Speaker, by vandalizing bridges, guardrails, by vandalizing electrical power lines, is not going to continue happening again, Honorable Speaker. So I will support even the Fisheries Management and Development Act is also going to ensure that the fishing, that is one of the key economic activities for majority of Kenyans, benefits people who engages in that trade, Honorable Speaker. And for that very many remarks, Honorable Speaker, I want to unequivocally support this statute law, Miscellaneous Amendment Bill of 2023. I support, Honorable Speaker.
Samuel Atandi. Are you queuing for this? And this is what I keep on telling you members.
Honorable Speaker, I'm waiting to talk on equalization.
Pardon?
I'm waiting to comment on the equalization bill.
On the?
Equalization appropriations bill.
Kibet Komingoi. Absent. Moses Kirima. Honorable Kaluma.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I support...
Just before Kaluma, you go on, Clerk, can you wipe the screen? And those who want to speak to this motion, this bill, put in your requests. I see Thuku Kwenya, I see Samuel Atandi. You've changed your mind. Then remove your card. Okay.
Yeah, Honorable Speaker, thank you for the opportunity to address the matter of this bill. Honorable Speaker, I support the proposed amendments to the Judicial Service Act, just as I also support the proposed amendments to the Parliamentary Service Act. Honorable Speaker, I support these particular provisions because the mandate of these particular commissions are in the Constitution. The Parliamentary Service Commission has to deal with matters of facilities and welfare for members. We've had situations in the past, Honorable Speaker, where sister commissions are encroaching into the mandate of the Parliamentary Service Commission. And I support this particular amendment because it would make it clear those matters which the Parliamentary Service Commission and the Judicial Service Commission should be dealing with. Honorable Speaker, we must remember there is a good reason as to why we have a Parliamentary Service Commission for this arm of government, and then we have a Judicial Service Commission for the other arm of government. We need those commissions to protect these two arms within the areas of their constitutional mandates. But Honorable Speaker, I oppose amendments proposed to the Children's Act, as I do also the amendments proposed to the Adoption Act. Honorable Speaker, it is proposed to amend the Children's Act to delete Section 184, subsection 4. And Honorable Speaker, just to put the Parliament in good light, let me read what Section 186, subsection 4 deals with. Honorable Speaker, the subject under Section 186 is the matter of who may apply to adopt a child. Who may apply to adopt a child. At subsection 4, it says the court shall not make an adoption order in favor of a sole male applicant. A sole male applicant, unless the applicant is a blood relative of a child. We are proposing to delete this provision to allow any male applicant, even if not related to a child, and in spite the gender of that child, to adopt a child. Honorable Speaker, that is a very dangerous amendment proposition. Why would I, as a male person, seek to adopt a child I'm not related to, and I'm not living with a female? Number one, what am I to do with the child if there is no distinction, Honorable Speaker, as to the gender of the child? Honorable Speaker, I'm addressing a proposed deletion of Section 186, subsection 4. A very dangerous proposal, Honorable Speaker, coming through this statute law miscellaneous amendment. And Honorable Speaker was explaining that when you read Section 186, Honorable Speaker, it is at page 1815 of the bill. 186, subsection 4, proposed to be deleted. At that page, it says the court shall not make an adoption order in favor of a sole male applicant unless the applicant is a blood relative of the child. Honorable Speaker, we know what it takes to take care of a young child. How can a male person who is a sole male person, not in marriage, not with any other person, adopt such a child? And we are not talking about the gender of the child. How can I be allowed to adopt a child I'm not related to, who is a girl, and I go with this child? Honorable Speaker, I want to say this provision is very dangerous. And I wanted to say, Honorable Speaker, that we took a lot of thought into the current Children's Act. And we had very good reasons to have this provision. We could risk children to defile us.
Order, Honorable Kaju. Go on.
Honorable Speaker, you could have people who are not related to a child. We have not specified even the gender of the child. These people can mess up a child beyond measure and beyond the control of the court. And Honorable Speaker, I wanted to ask the members that there is a good reason as to why we prescribed the subsection 4 of Section 186, which is sought to be removed. We oppose this one. Number two is that this particular provision, Honorable Speaker, is quite substantive to be considered, casually within the context of a statute law miscellaneous amendment bill. Honorable Speaker, at Section 186, subsection 6F, Honorable Speaker, you'll again see at that same page 1815, the deletion being proposed. And Honorable Speaker, this is very serious. I wished particularly our county members of parliament would look at these provisions. Very critical for the family. Honorable Speaker, this deals with adoption of a child. And the provision which is sought to be removed at 6F says, the court shall not make an adoption order in favor of an applicant or joint applicants if the applicant or joint applicants or any of them is a foreign applicant except where the applicant is a biological relative of the child. What is the problem with that provision? It is protecting our children. Honorable Speaker, we've had cases of child trafficking. We've had cases of organ harvesting, sourced from children being moved from jurisdictions to other jurisdictions. We have cases of child pornography. I mean, how do you want to delete a provision which is securing our children from foreigners unless they are biological relatives? What protection do those children have after they are moved out of jurisdiction? Honorable Speaker, these are very fundamental provisions. And I wanted to say that if we are dealing with the provisions of Article 53, particularly the rights of the child as protected under Article 53, if we read it keenly, we cannot delete these provisions proposed. And an honorable Speaker, on these two proposed deletions, I'm opposed. Otherwise, I support every provision, even though they are substantive. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Kwenya Thuku. Kwenya Thuku is in the house.
Thank you.
Yes, Kwenya.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity to contribute on this miscellaneous amendment bill. And Mr. Speaker, from the onset, I am in support of some of the amendments herein, but I also want to give my thoughts in a few as far as I'm concerned and the feel of the people of Kinangop. Mr. Speaker, I want to support from the onset the inclusion of Kenya Power and Lighting Company in the membership, to be in the membership of Rural Electrification and Renewable Energy Corporation. We have had issues of electrification in our constituencies, Mr. Speaker, and once work is done by REREC, there have not been proper transitions from REREC to the body now that takes charge of the power lines and serves our people with electricity. Because of lack of proper, the lack of proper transition is because Kenya Power is not represented in the board of REREC. And therefore inclusion of KPLC in the same, that would be a step in the right direction. Mr. Speaker, of importance in this bill that I wish to give my thoughts is on the issue of this amendment that is proposed on the Scrap Metal Act of 2015. Mr. Speaker, I see a lot of mischief in this bill. Reason being, we are proposing, or there's a proposal that scrap metal dealers, and especially those dealing with copper, aluminium, and copper and aluminium alloy, to have special license to export copper, aluminium, and the two combined. And Mr. Speaker, this should worry everybody. One of the biggest issues that we're dealing with today is transformers vandalism. Vandalism as far as extraction of copper is concerned, because we know they are pricey. And Mr. Speaker, we all know that the Republic of Kenya, we do not produce copper. And therefore, why are we licensing people to deal with copper? I think the best thing to do, Mr. Speaker, is to ban the export of copper completely and leave that business to the two entities that have been mentioned here. The numerical machining complex, and Kenya Shipyard. So that then if there are any scrap metals as far as the two metals are concerned, then they are consolidated, they are smelted, and therefore have billets that are under the custody of the two public entities. Then they can be auctioned in public, Mr. Speaker, as opposed to giving special licenses. And actually, this is now being left to the hands of overseers, who now will decide who to issue these licenses to. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, we may be forming cartels that are going to be responsible of vandalizing our transformers, and this is a challenge that we've been having every year. I had a conversation with one of our officers in REREC, and actually they brought my attention on this issue, Mr. Speaker. And because we represent people and we know the kind of losses that this country is running into because of this illegal, or maybe let me just say legal trade, whereby we have licensed vandalizers. Mr. Speaker, I am opposed to this amendment, and in fact, I am going to bring up amendments that are going to delete any form of licensing of scrap metal dealers and in as far as copper is concerned, because we do not produce the same, and therefore exporting the same would be a question that we need to answer as a house. Let us leave this to the two public entities that have been mentioned in this bill to deal with the consolidation of the same and maybe selling the same in public auction. Otherwise, Mr. Speaker, I support anything else that is in this bill, but on that one, I'm opposed and I'm going to bring an amendment. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
What is the point of order?
Mr. Speaker, something troubles me. You know, bills come before us, we process them in second reading, and it would appear as though the normal situation is to pass bills. Mr. Speaker, we have spoken about this ever since I came to this bunge in 2013, that statute miscellaneous amendments should only focus on issues that are correcting the law, minor issues of law. Now, Mr. Speaker, with you, because you are a doyen of authority, and you are the chairman of the rules and procedure, if we are unable to tame the executive from where these bills are coming, are we able to change our rules so that we make sure that when the clerk is perusing a bill, if the clerk finds, and in the speaker's discretion, if it turns out that a legislation is so fundamental and substantial that requires policy, the speaker or the clerk would refuse to process that kind of bill. Because even as we speak, Honorable Kaluma has spoken, and the member there has eloquently spoken, you will see that all this, in spite of what they have said, except for committee of the whole house, we will still pass them, notwithstanding what they are, notwithstanding the fact that there is no policy, notwithstanding the fact that they have not been clearly thought of. Mr. Speaker, I just want to harvest from your experience. Is it possible that your committee, the Rules Committee, we could come up with a change of the standing orders? Because presently, nothing like that appears. Thank you.
Bring your petition, the Rules Committee, to be looked out. I have no reason to believe that this bill will go through or not until you vote. So we leave it there. Bring a petition to look at it.
Let me summarize, Mr. Speaker, by saying I am opposed to this amendment. I am going to bring in further amendments so that then we align and make sure that there is no trade that is going to happen in this country in as far as exportation of copper is concerned. Mr. Speaker, I support with reservations.
Zamzam Chimba.
Mheshimiwa Spika, na mimi naangalia sheria, marekebisho ya sheria ya watoto kipengee cha 29 ya 2022. Mheshimiwa Spika, mimi pia napenda kupigia pondo ndugu yangu Kaluma alivyozungumza, akasema watoto wamepewa ulinzi katika katiba. Mheshimiwa Spika, na kama mama ni vizuri kweli tujue kuwa mtoto anapokuwa ataka kuchukuliwa na mzazi mwingine iwe ni katika familia ya mtoto. Mheshimiwa Spika, tumeona mataifa ya nje wameweza kupitisha mswada wa kununua watu. Mheshimiwa Spika, watu watakuwa wananunuliwa kama peremende dukani, kama switi, kama maziwa. Mheshimiwa Spika, na hii inatupa wasiwasi. Nimeiona hiyo bill imepita Marekani. Mheshimiwa Spika, na naona hapa tukitoa hiki kipengee cha kuweza kuwalinda watoto wetu, kutakuwa na mwanya wa mtu yoyote kutoka sehemu yoyote kuchukua mtoto kwa jina la adoption, lakini pengine wanaenda kutumika kwa mambo mengine, Mheshimiwa Spika. Na hasa kipengee kile kimemlinda mtoto kusema kuwa mtu wa kiume, mwanaume asiweze kuchukua mtoto, kwa sababu kwanza mwanaume hajapewa ile nguvu ya kuweza kulea mtoto kama vile mama. Kwa hiyo mimi napenda hichi kipengee kisiweze kuguswa, ili wale watoto wetu waweze kupata ulinzi, wasiweze kujipata katika mikono ya watu ambao si watu wazuri, Mheshimiwa Spika. Watu wengi wanaingia na jina la adoption, Mheshimiwa Spika, lakini mwisho wa kwisha wanaenda kutumia watoto, wengine wanatoa viungo vya mwili, huwezi kujua mtoto kama anakaa vizuri, hakuna mtu ambaye anafuatilia kule mtoto alikokwenda. Kwa hiyo ni vizuri mtu wa karibu wa damu ya mtoto ndio aweze kuchukua mtoto, Mheshimiwa Spika. Kwa hii mimi nasema hichi kipengee kisiweze kubadilishwa. Asante sana, Mheshimiwa Spika.
Marwa Kitayama.
Mheshimiwa Spika, ingawaje nilikuwa nataka kuchangia kwa hoja ambayo inafuatia, lakini Mheshimiwa Spika, ni wazi kwamba kuna matatizo.
Kama hizi ile ulitaka, yield the floor to somebody else.
Well guided, Mr. Speaker.
Paul Nabuin, Turkana North.
Speaker, I wasn't keen on which one was coming through.
Thank you. Honorable members, let me repeat what I've been telling you. If a motion is on the floor by way of a bill such as this, if you have no intention of contributing to it, don't log in so that you fill the screen, you make it difficult for whoever is in the chair, including the speaker, to know who wants to speak on this and who doesn't. Wilberforce Oundo, are you on this or
yes,
anticipating something else?
No, it's on this matter. I had actually been checking with the state. I was on top. I don't know how I've been just lost my position all of a sudden.
Go ahead.
Honorable Speaker, as a matter of principle, since I came here to the 12th Parliament, I have always had reservation about miscellaneous amendment bills. They are miscellaneous, but they are mischievous. The mischief has always come out very apparent once the bill is completed as required by law. Honorable Speaker, the bill, as published, has got very fundamental amendments to the law, and some go to the core of the various bills of rights under the Constitution of Kenya, and therefore should not actually meet the threshold of a miscellaneous bill to rectify minor changes. Honorable Speaker, let me start with the Children's Bill, Children's Act, amendment to the Children's Act. Honorable Speaker, which proposes to delete Section 186(4) of the Principal Act. Honorable Speaker, I totally oppose, and I oppose it on various grounds. Number one, the way Section 4 is styled gives some kind of protection against child abuse. Honorable Speaker, ordinarily, child abuse is invariably in many cases perpetuated by male. Honorable Speaker, allowing the courts to allow a single man, or a single applicant, a sole applicant who is a male, to adopt a child, regardless whether it's a relative or not, is indeed a precursor for abusing that particular child. Honorable Speaker, I cannot fathom why a drafter would want to do this and put a Kenyan child in harm for purposes nobody understands. So, Honorable Speaker, I stand to oppose, and I will indeed, that particular law, make amendments accordingly. Honorable Speaker, when we go to the Scrap Metal Act, the amendments are long overdue because of the issue of critical national infrastructure. And indeed, the definition of critical national infrastructure has been inserted and expanded, Honorable Speaker. Many of us suffer, many Kenyans suffer vandalism of the railway line, vandalism of the guardrails, vandalism for electrical installation, and all those kind of things. Styling them as national critical infrastructure and barring their trade other than designated state agencies is the right way forward. But Honorable Speaker, we again conversely introduce the issue of monopolistic practices in the market. Probably in the wisdom of the Committee of Energy, we need to find it in such a way that the Cabinet Secretary can license any competent national agency, state agency, sort of restricting to only the two, Numerical Machining Complex and Kenya Shipyard Limited, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, when we look at the amendments to the National Employment Authority Act, it is sad reading, Honorable Speaker. Sad reading in two senses. Honorable Speaker, in this bill, we perpetuate the old stereotype that a job must be one where somebody is formally employed. And that's why now we are introducing a job seeker instead of what was there as a youth. A job seeker, Honorable Speaker, therefore it means even a 70-year-old person could still be categorized as a job seeker. That will defeat the essence of the National Employment Authority Act, which focus was on the youths. Even, Honorable Speaker, when you read the other provisions, then by changing of the word from youth to job seeker, you defeat the amendments contained in clause 2 or dealing with section 37, which says the authority shall establish incentives to reward a private institution that employs Kenyans within 6 months of completing their certificate or undergraduate studies and who do not possess more than 5 years experience. Honorable Speaker, inevitably those are the youths. They're the ones who are in active training. So, Honorable Speaker, if you introduce the word job seeker, then you expand the application of this incentive to anybody else. And Honorable Speaker, again, the danger we are creating here, we are again perpetuating that a job seeker must be in so quotes, must have a written job. Yet, under Vision 2030, MTP 3, and as expanded MTP 4, a job does not need to have been a formal employment. You can run your own job. You can run your own self-entrepreneurship. You do not have to be a job seeker. We are stereotyping the old mentality that a job is a white-collar job. And that's why we're looking at the publication definition of a job seeker. We will move to amend that particular to erase any focus, any reference to a job seeker, to probably retain the youth or those whose job are in such a way they require a certain kind of a job. Honorable Speaker, the amendments under the Energy Act are progressive and good. However, Honorable Speaker, there's a provision that says any vessel that is used to convey the vandalized or stolen equipment or appliance referred to in subsection 1 shall be forfeited to the state. Honorable Speaker, there are forgeries, there are car thefts, there is misuse, there's where unauthorized use of the motor vehicle. Why would you punish the owner of the motor vehicle for reasons that he does not even know? And I give an example, Honorable Speaker. Last year, there was a contractor who brought material. Some people came to see the material. The vehicle they used was a stolen vehicle with forged number plates. Honorable Speaker, probably we need to put a provision that as long as whoever the owner of the vehicle can prove that he did not authorize for the use of that vehicle. Finally, Honorable Speaker, allow me to make a comment on the Parliamentary Service Act and the Judicial Service Act. And this, we are trying to legislate, Honorable Speaker, matters that could have purely been administrative of nature. If it wasn't for intransigency of Salaries and Remuneration Commission, we would not have gotten to this level. This is now we epitomize misuse of powers conferred to any particular state agency in either in the Constitution or an Act of Parliament. The CRC, to the very able layman's understanding and even a lawmaker's understanding, was basically to deal with salaries. The basics of mileage, basics of sleeping allowance, basics of daily allowances, should surely be such mundane matters that a board of such content provided from the Constitution should not go into this. But we are forced to legislate this because CRC has become rogue, so to speak, has usurped power beyond the powers that was. Honorable Speaker, as I conclude, miscellaneous amendment bill is always a mischievous amendment, so that they will less focus on particular important matters so they get through. But I want to urge my colleagues who are here, the amendments and the Children's Act are extremely dangerous. I would even request JLAC to actually disallow or even remove an amendment not to allow those particular amendments, because we are endangering the Kenyan children. We are allowing the Kenyan children to be in the hands of abusers, people who are going to abuse these children regardless of relationship, whether blood or not. Honorable Speaker, with those few remarks, I support the bill, but with reservations that will move in the committee of the whole House. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. Member for Narok East, Honorable Aramat.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to support the amendment bills. Madam Speaker, there is an amendment bill of winding up the nuclear agency. And Madam Speaker, we feel as a committee that winding up of the nuclear energy agency would not be of interest to this country. Madam Speaker, the nuclear agency is a state corporation established under the Energy Act of 2019, and it is in charge with the responsibility of promoting and implementing the nuclear programs in Kenya. Madam Speaker, Kenya has been a member state of the International Atomic Energy Agency since 1965, and this United Nations specialized agency responsible for safety, secure, and peace use of nuclear technology. Madam Speaker, we saw fit as a committee that the Nuclear Energy Agency, NUPEA, which has not been adequately funded by the Exchequer, should be funded adequately. And secondly, Madam Speaker, that the NUPEA should continue to discharge its mandate as stipulated in subsection of 56(1) of the Energy Act. Madam Speaker, we don't intend or we request this House to support the nuclear agency so that it should not be winded up. Madam Speaker, in our recommendation, Madam Speaker, that we intend to bring in the floor of this House, the committee proposes amendments that were supposed to be amendment to section 210, 12(1)(e), 20, and Madam Speaker, we intend to table them in the committee of the whole House when it comes to the whole House, so that our recommendation as the committee should also be taken in or taken into consideration. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Member for Marakwet West, Honorable Timothy Toroitich.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I rise to comment on this particular proposed legislation. Honorable Speaker, from the onset, I associate myself with the sentiments of Honorable Kaluma and Honorable Undo. Honorable Speaker, that sometimes it seems like we are sneaking in substantive amendments to certain legislations using statute law miscellaneous, which is an omnibus. Honorable Speaker, I believe, and I want I believe that this kind of miscellaneous amendments using a statute law are only meant to correct certain minor amendments. Honorable Speaker, looking at this bill in its entirety, it introduces very substantive amendments, which ideally should be amendments in the apparent legislations. Honorable Speaker, For example, if you look at the provision on the Children's Act, the amendment of the Children's Act, which touches on adoption, Honorable Speaker, my opinion is that particular amendment should be brought under the Children's Act, not under a miscellaneous statute law, because it goes to the core of that particular Children's Act. Honorable Speaker, if, for example, you look at that particular provision on the issue of adoption, Honorable Speaker, it provides for deletion of Section 186(4) of the Children's Act. Honorable Speaker, that provision provides that the court shall not make an adoption order in favor of a sole male applicant unless the applicant is a blood relative of the child. Honorable Speaker, in my opinion, the wisdom behind that particular provision of the law under the Children's Act was to protect the best interest of our children. Honorable Speaker, we now want to delete that particular provision and give sole male applicants